So I've done it. The first step into running 100 kilometers this year, I've signed up to the race. Now, originally I was thinking about doing Race the Stones, which is a race I've actually done before. I actually completed this race over 2 days. So I did 50k one day, slept in a tent overnight, and then did 50k the next day. That was actually my first ever ultra marathon. And I knew, like, I got close to doing the 400 before, a couple of years ago, but we basically, me and a friend did a run which was supposed to be the 400 kilometers. We basically were doing it unsupported, so we're just doing it carrying all our food and water and stopping at shops and along the way. And basically we underestimated how hard it would be and how hard this route in particular would be. So we ended up doing, I think it was like 84 kilometers, which was still a good achievement, but the 400 never got done. Now, obviously I was thinking about doing this other race, and then I had a chat with a friend. He suggested that I just kind of go for it. And to be honest, this race does fit in a lot more with my values and the sort of race I'd like to do. I love Wales, I love the mountains, I love those kind of trails. It's just punchy. Like, it is a kind of exciting yet nerve-wracking like prospect. It's 107 kilometers, there's 6,500 meters of elevation, which is a lot. So yeah, it's kind of daunting. I've got 5 months of training ahead of me. So yeah, should be good. Now I've just come off the back of a half marathon. So I am in pretty good fitness in terms of speed. The thing I don't have at the moment is the time on trails, the time working up hills, as a lot of my running has been very flat, and just the time on feet and distance. So they're going to be the things that I mainly begin focusing on straight away. Building my aerobic base, building time on feet, and beginning to work on trails and up hills. So they're the initial things I'm going to begin working on. But I've entered, I've committed, so now it's just a case of getting on with the training. And yeah, that'll be me for the next few months. So now I've entered myself into this race, the next phase of it is actually looking at my training, looking at planning out the next kind of 6 months or so, and working out where I need to put my focus, working into different phases and focusing on different things throughout the different phases. So essentially there's 3 main elements that I think I need to focus on here. And whenever you're looking at a big race or a big goal, it's easier to break it down into different sections, focus on different areas, rather than looking at it as a whole. And that's the same way that I approach my training. Rather than looking at the whole thing, I break it down into different sections and focus on different things as I go along. So there's kind of 3 things, as I said, that I'm going to focus on. The first one, quite obviously, is distance. It's the longest I would have ever run, so I need to be able to train to make sure that I'm used to A, going the distance, but B, being on my feet for a long period of time. The second one is elevation. Now, this one is probably the most daunting of all the things that I need to train for, mainly because I've never been in a race or a run that has had so much elevation in it. I was looking back to my training through Strava, and the furthest I've ever gone before is about 52 miles. Now, the elevation over the course of that run, and it felt like we did a lot of hills, was about 1,500 meters. Now, the race I'm doing is 6,500 meters over the course of the 100 kilometers. So there is a lot of hills. Obviously, it's Snowdon, so you would expect there to be a lot of hills, but it's just something that I'm going to have to work on over the next few months. Now, actually being able to replicate that sort of elevation is going to be pretty difficult. So I do have a secret weapon, which is a Stairmaster in the gym that I work at, So that is going to be used just to be able to get some extra volume through the legs. And to be honest, that's going to be really useful for the kind of hiking element of the training that I'll need to do anyway. As much as it will be a race and I will be running bits of it, there inevitably will be elements of it that are just too steep for me to run up. So I inevitably will have to walk it as well. And then the third element that I'm kind of thinking of is the terrain. So one, I've been doing most of my training on pavement recently for the last 3 months, pavement and road. So I'm going to have to transition across to trail and get really used to running on uneven surfaces. I have had a history of ankle rolling in the past, so I've sprained both ankles multiple times. So gradually getting used to being on rough and uneven ground is going to have to be something that I am really mindful of, and I do take a lot of care in making sure that I go and do it. Now, something else which I've thought about as well is that, you know, what I run on around here is going to be completely different to what I run on in Snowdon. So a few trips down to that area and kind of the other hilly areas in Wales are going to be quite useful, but it just depends on how much time I've got and whether that conflicts with the rest of my life. So those three things are going to be the main kind of training priorities per se. Getting the distance in and building time on my feet, getting used to elevation and climbing up, and then getting used to running on trail again. So making sure that kind of the majority of my running is done on trail. So that initially is how I would look at that race and kind of break it down into the sections of what I need to work on. Now, so then what I'll do is when I look at my training plan, I need to make sure that there's a high amount of hill work, there's a high amount of work on trail, and also I'm getting those long runs in as well as kind of the overall volume. That initially is how I look at the training planning, and then go into actually writing a plan and being aware of working on those things. Back in the room, right, it's definitely been a couple of weeks since I have recorded those videos before. So I'm actually in the process of training already. I have kind of got a rough idea of what I want to achieve and where I want to get to by Christmas. It's the 10th of December now. I think when I originally recorded those videos, it was sometime in November. From January onwards, my training is all planned, it's all structured. And I guess what I'm going to try and do is kick things up another gear in the pursuit of working towards this end goal, which is 100 kilometers. And actually I am beginning to think about the preparation I've got to put into that to enable me to A, begin running the distances, but B, get the elevation and get fit enough that I'm going to be able to complete this race without kind of hitch per se, and complete it within the time, because there is a time limit that has been, or that is in place. So I've got 32 hours to do the full race, and I think if anything speaks volumes about that is that there is up to 32 hours to do it. And I know that a good proportion of people that entered the race last year did not complete. So from what I've looked on the website, there's about 300 competitors or so, maybe a little bit less. 150 people, or just under 150 people, completed it, which means the other lot of people either didn't turn up on the day, so due to injury or whatever, or they were timed out, which means they get a DNF, which is a did not finish. And that's essentially because, you know, if you think about it, if you're out running on mountains and mountainous terrain for over 32 hours, then it gets to a point where it becomes dangerous for you to continually stay out there, because you're more likely to make mistakes, because you're more likely to you know, to do things like catch hypothermia, to not be eating enough, and that's where it can kind of get quite dangerous. I mean, I guess in itself, like, the event is or does have an element of danger. Like, we are running through the Welsh mountains overnight into another day, so that it does have that element of danger anyway. But just as the time goes on, as you fatigue, that element of danger increases pretty dramatically. So all the training is to be able to get to a point where I can do this full race within the 32-hour time limit, be fit enough, be strong enough, be able to run up hills, and yeah, that's basically where I'm at. So right now what I'm doing is I'm running on a Monday, we've got a running club that runs out of the gym which I lead, so I'm doing that run. On a Tuesday I'm strength training, and I will keep that in the whole time. You know, when I did my last half marathon, I actually didn't really strength train at all, I just ran. With this, I want to make sure that I keep a strong and robust body throughout the whole period, because I actually think that when it comes to ultra marathons, being able to do that is a little bit more important than when you're going out and you're running on road. Wednesday, I have been working between going on like a stepper, we've got like a step machine in the gym, so doing like an hour to an hour and a half on that. And recently I've just begun running on trail, so I'll probably swap between the two for the next few weeks leading into January. When I get into January, I'll just go 100% into running. Thursday usually have off. Friday tends to be a trail run and another strength training session if I'm feeling up to it. Saturday's off, and then Sunday's kind of my long run. I probably will add in a run on Thursday as well, so I'll add in another trail run potentially, which will mean that I am running 5 days a week, which is similar to what I did in my half marathon training, and I will be strength training 1 to 2 days depending on how I'm feeling. Now, what I have put in from January is the option to drop or move the strength training on the Tuesday. You know, just kind of thinking, if I'm coming off the back of a big day on Sunday and then running again on Monday, I might actually need to completely rest on the Tuesday and move that strength training. That strength training will probably have to go to a Monday, but we'll just have to play it by ear, and there will be an element of this plan will chop and change as we go through. So that is where I'm at up to now. Next few weeks is just about building mileage overall, and then also on that long run. So I've got my first longer run tomorrow, which will be 15 miles on trail. So that'll be interesting to see how the legs feel after that, and then continue to build over the next few weeks. I'm kind of going to use a Christmas period to get a decent amount of training done when I'm quieter in terms of business, but also when I have more calories that I'll be eating. So it kind of makes sense to kind of get a good bulk of training done now, so that when I go into January, I'm in a pretty decent spot, and then kind of just build from there. Something else I'll obviously need to factor in is being able to get out to areas that will have a little bit more elevation. So in the vicinity of where I live, we have the kind of the South Downs and the North Downs that are pretty close. So I'll be doing some kind of runs down there to get some kind of mileage in, and also to get some elevation in my legs over the next few months. And then at some point I do want to get down to do the Brecon Beacons. It's an area of Wales that I absolutely love, and it has a decent amount of elevation as well, so that is always a bonus. So that's kind of where I am at the moment. I will be making these videos probably monthly to kind of follow my journey, and then obviously if there are elements that you do want to see or know about, then let me know and I'll put them in.